today's bell work, we're in Guided Notes Lesson 2. If the radius of a circle is 5.2, what is the circumference? What's our formula for circumference of a circle?
Cherry pie is delicious. Oh, cherry pie.
Cherry pie is delicious, or C equals pi times diameter. Our radius is 5.2. If our radius is 5.2, how do we find the diameter? Multiply by 2 and we get
10.4.
10.4. So for pi, we use the value 3.14, and we want to multiply that by 10.4. When you multiply those two numbers together, what do you get?
32.656.
32.656, and when you round, it's 32.7. We were given no units, so you could write unit squared if you want.
Why does it have to be squared again?
Because we're multiplying to, oh, this one is unit squared, you're right. It's just units for circumference. Good job, Lucas. Okay, so for the second question, if the diameter of a circle is 23, what's the area? Our diameter is 23. What formula do we use for area?
Pi r two.
So we have pi r squared. Do we want to plug in our diameter into this formula? No, we need to find the radius. And how would we find the radius?
Divided by 2.
And what do we get?
11.5.
We also want r squared. What would be 11.5 times 11.5?
132.25.
And that's what we plug in for r squared. 3.14 times,
133.25.
and when you multiply those two numbers together, we get
415.260.
and rounding to the nearest tenth, we get
415.3.
0.3. We don't know what the units are, but it's units, and since we have area, this is when we use units squared. The heading of our notes today is Area of Composite Figures. Our target is students will be able to identify the shapes that make up a composite figure and find the area of a composite figure. So, what do you think our vocabulary word is today? Yeah, composite figure. A composite figure is made up of two or more shapes. To find the area of these figures, split them into shapes with areas you know, and then you're either going to add them together or subtract them. So you break up your composite figure into familiar shapes, and you're going to either add them together or subtract them depending on whether or not they're included in your composite figure. 4 basic area formulas. When you think of parallelogram, what are some shapes you think of?
Square.
Yes, that would be a square or a rectangle. And who knows our area formula for that?
Isn't it base times height?
Yep. So for a parallelogram, the area A of a parallelogram is the product of any base B and its height h. So we're using the formula A equals base times height, or BH. For a triangle, what's different about our area for a triangle? You have to divide it by 2. So we get the formula area equals 1/2 base times height. Or you could find your base and your height and then divide by 2. Dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. For a trapezoid, does anyone remember that one? It's a little bit different. Yeah, you're very close. You have to add your bases together. So its area equals 1/2 the height times base 1 plus base 2. Since base 1 and base 2, when you add those together, it's in parentheses. That means that's what we do first. So area equals 1/2 the height times, in parentheses, base 1 plus base 2. And the last one everyone should know, because this is what we've been going over. The area of a circle is, apple pies are 2, or pi times radius squared. Okay, the first question we have a composite figure. What shapes do you see in this figure? We have a triangle up top. Is this bottom shape a square?
Yes.
If it's 15 feet and 12 feet, it's a rectangle. So we want to find the area of each shape. If we find the area of our rectangle, what's our area formula for a rectangle? Base times height. For this rectangle, what is our base? 15. And what's our height? 12. And when you multiply 15 times 12, what do you get? 180. We also want to find the area of our triangle. And what's our formula for that? Base times height divided by 2. You could have a 1/2 in front, it means the same thing. And what is our base of the triangle? 15, and our height is 4, and then we're going to have to divide that by 2. What's 15 times 4? 60, and 60 divided by 2 equals 30. What's our last step for this? Add them together. So we have 180, which is our rectangle, and 30, and when you add them together, we get 210. What is our units here? Feet, and since it's area, we have units squared. Okay, for our next question, number 2, we have a composite figure. We have 2 separate parts. The first part, we want to find the area of the unshaded region. So if we focus on the unshaded region, what shapes do you see in this unshaded region?
A rectangle and a square. Rectangle.
Okay, so yeah, we have 2 rectangles, so we'll call this one 1 and this one 2. If we find the area of our first rectangle, what's the base?
60.
Yeah, our base is 60. And what would the height be? We want this height right here. If we know that the bottom part is 25 and the entire height is 50, what part's missing right here? 25. So when you multiply 60 times 25, what do you get?
1,500.
And for our second area, we're using base times height again. What would be our base?
60? No. 25.
If this part right here is 20, if you want to find this part right here, yeah, this is 60, because the entire top part is 120, and if you subtract out this 60, our base for this one is 60, and what's our height? 50, and when you multiply those 2 numbers together, we get 3,000. And what would be our last step to find the area of the unshaded region? Add those 2 together, and 3,000 plus 1,500 gives us 4,500 or 4,500, and what's our units? Yards squared. The second part of this question wants us to find the area of the shaded region. We could focus on the shaded region, or what do you notice about our entire figure? What shape is this? We have a trapezoid. And what's our area formula for a trapezoid?
Base 1 plus base 2.
So let's fill in what we know. I'm going to bring down the 1/2. And what's my height?
50.
50. Right here's our height. We have 50. And for my bases, base 1, we'll do the bottom. Our bottom base is 150. And base 2, we can do the top, which is 120. Since we have our bases in parentheses, we have to add those first. What is 150 plus 120? 270. Go ahead and multiply 50 times 270.
13,500.
And then since we have this 1/2, we have to divide it by 2.
6,750.
So if the entire figure has an area of 6,750 and we want just the shaded region, what do we have to do? Subtract the unshaded region, which we already found the area of. Yeah, which is 4,500. When you subtract these two,
2,250.
got 2,250, and our units are yards squared. Okay, go ahead and try the next two on your own.
8.